Hey guys, it's Dude Chemistry back on the Food Chemistry Show, and today we are going to break down the interesting world of food chemistry. Today, with me, I have Dr. Preeti Talreja, who's a food and nutritionist expert.
Thank you, Madam. Hi, I'm Preeti Talreja, your wellness and nutrition expert. Today, we are going to be diving into how the chemistry of food works hand in hand with nutrition. Knowing this combination can help you make the most delicious and the most nutritional meals. So, always make sure you know the chemistry behind food. On to you, Madam.
Doctor, I know that food pairing is a big topic in nutrition, and it makes sense from a flavor perspective.
Of course.
But have you ever wondered why certain combinations like beans and rice or spinach and lemon seem to work so well together? Like, what's the chemistry behind these pairings?
Yes, of course. When we talk about how food pairings work, it's not about taste, but it's also about maximum nutrient absorption. Like pairing foods which are very high in vitamin C, for example, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, along with foods that are rich in iron, that is beans and spinach, as we all know. When we pair this combination of food together, it has maximum absorption because iron and vitamin C are like best friends. They help the body absorb iron in a better form.
Oh, so from a chemistry perspective, the vitamin C converts the non-heme iron into a more absorbable form.
Correct.
So that helps in the more uptake of iron, is that correct?
Yeah, so Mahan, that's an amazing question. So basically what happens, the citric acid in lime or any foods that are rich in vitamin C makes iron into a more absorbable form. So it is good for our body to absorb the iron. So always make sure that you pair foods high in vitamin C and iron together. So that's how food chemistry works in vitamin and mineral absorption in our body.
That's really fascinating. And what about fat? I've heard that eating healthy fats like avocados and olive oil along with vegetables enhances the nutrient absorption. So can you shed a little light on that?
Yes, of course, that is very true because many vitamins like A, D, E and K, which are fat soluble, they need a lot of fats to get absorbed into our body. Why do we basically eat food? We eat food for the vitamins and minerals to get absorbed in our body. So pairing these vitamins with a good fat like olive oil, avocado, ghee helps in the vitamin absorption in the body. So it's very important to pair fats with certain kind of foods like Brussels sprouts, kale, turnips to enhance the vitamin absorption in the body.
That's a great example of how food chemistry and nutrition really work together. The fat isn't just making the food taste better, but it's also making it work better for the body.
Exactly.
Now let's dive into cooking methods. We've all heard that cooking can destroy nutrients, but what does that really mean? And why do certain methods like boiling and steaming affect the nutrients in our food differently?
Exactly. So what happens when you cook food, the heat in the food breaks down a lot of nutrition in the food, especially vitamin C and B, which are water soluble. So when you boil the food, a lot of nutrition enters into the food through the water. So when the water is thrown out, obviously you are going to lose the nutrition from the food. So steaming is a much better method because the food is not coming in direct contact with water. So it preserves the nutrition value. And secondly, what happens, you can make out from the color of the food. The more bright the colors, which happens with steaming. But if you boil, the colors are completely lost. So nutrition is lost when you boil and it is preserved or it is kept when you steam the food. So steaming is a better option.
So the water soluble vitamins are more likely to stay intact if you steam rather than boil the vegetables.
Exactly, because water soluble vitamins like B and C, when it comes in contact with water, the vitamins get drained out of the water. So it's always better to steam because when you steam, water doesn't come in contact with the food. So it preserves and it retains the nutrition in the food. So that's how the nutrition is preserved.
That's the science at work. And I definitely now believe that eating steamed food is much better for our body than eating boiled food because steamed food contains more nutrients. Now moving on, when it comes to roasting, especially starchy vegetables like sweet potatoes, I know a chemical reaction called the Maillard reaction. It is at play over there. Can you explain what happens over there?
The Maillard reaction is one of the most interesting reactions in chemistry and when food and chemical reactions are come into contact. So what happens? When this reaction happens, heat causes the amino acids and reducing sugars to come into contact, creating those beautiful brown and caramelization of the flavors. Also, what happens is also increases the nutrient absorption in the body. For example, where sweet potato is concerned, it increases the level of antioxidants such as beta carotene in the sweet potato for more bioavailability and absorption in the body. So Maillard reaction is one of my favorites because it gives us not only taste but also antioxidants in the body.
So that delicious roasted flavor is actually a sign of increased nutrition availability. It's like the heat is unlocking more benefits from the food.
Exactly. It's not only just the change in the color or just the caramelization, but it is also the increase in the antioxidant and other mineral-rich foods which helps in absorption of nutrient in the body. Yeah, but as you said, we shouldn't be over-roasting or overcooking the food because harmful compounds like AGE might just enter our bloodstream which we don't want and which can be harmful for us.
That's a great insight, doctor. And let's talk about fermented foods for a moment. We hear a lot about how great they are for our gut health, but what happens at the chemical level during fermentation that makes them so beneficial?
Sure. For example, fermented food like yogurt, kefir, kimchi, even our Indian pickles, they are packed with probiotics. Probiotics are very good bacteria, healthy bacteria that are good for our gut and our gut microbiome, that is our gut flora and fauna. So basically what happens, fermentation not only introduces good bacteria in our body, but it also helps in maximum nutrient absorption. For example, it increases the bioavailability of B vitamins and minerals like calcium and magnesium. So fermentation of food is not only good for our gut, but also very healthy for the absorption of a lot of vitamins and nutrition.
That's amazing. So when food is fermented, bacteria are essentially helping to pre-digest the food, and that makes the nutrients also more available?
Yes, that's true. Because during the process of fermentation, which involves bacteria and yeast, which break down the sugars and starches in the food into much simpler forms, which help the gut microbiome to actually absorb good nutrition in the body. For example, the lactic acid in fermented dairy, which not only helps our gut microbiome to flourish, but it also helps our gut to absorb good quality nutrition, which is very important for not only our health but also our overall well-being.
So it's like the microorganisms are doing part of the work for us. And those
Exactly.
probiotics, those good bacteria, help balance our gut microbiome, which plays a key role in digestion and even in our immune function.
Exactly. So it's not only digestion and nutrient absorption, it's also fermented food helps us improve our gut health. It helps us to improve our mental health and also our immunity. We all know how immunity plays such a major role and vital role in our well-being. And it is very interesting to know how fermented food helps us in so many different ways. It is not only digestion, but it gives us so many benefits of like mental health conditions, good sleep, and numerous amount of benefits.
So we have touched upon the fact that fermented foods are really good not only for our gut but for our mental health and a number of reasons. Now let's touch on something that's crucial for energy levels, blood sugar. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of glycemic index or GI, but how does it relate to food chemistry and why is it so important?
So glycemic index or GI is very, very important because basically the GI measures how quickly the foods that we consume raise the blood sugar levels. So if you consume foods that are really high in glycemic index, that is your white bread or a lot of sugary foods or a lot of food that has a lot of preservatives in it, the blood sugar levels just increase rapidly and they come down with a crash. But on the other hand, if you consume foods that are low in GI, the blood sugar levels raise slowly. The absorption of nutrition in the body happens slowly. That gives us more energy. So always make sure you consume foods that have a low GI.
So from a chemical standpoint, we can say that high GI foods are broken down faster, absorbed faster by the body, and that results in a sudden spike in sugar in the body. And if we consume low GI foods, then that gets digested for a longer period of time, also giving us steady energy.
Correct. So what happens when you consume low GI foods? It takes a little longer, it takes some more time to get absorbed in our bodies. So the sugar spike is not very high. So basically it's not like a roller coaster ride or a roller coaster up in your sugar spike that happens with consuming high GI foods. I'll give you a quick tip. If you combine your high GI foods with healthy fats, proteins and fiber, you can actually lower down the glycemic index. So consuming healthy fibers, carbohydrates, fats can actually lower the glycemic index of the food.
So pairing a high GI index food with something like avocado or nuts can actually slow down the digestion process and make it more balanced, and it is less likely to cause a sugar spike. Is that what you're trying to say?
True. What I'm trying to say is if you combine high GI foods with your macronutrients, that's your carbs, your proteins and your fats, and also some amount of fiber, the glycemic index tends to come down, it tends to come lower. So make sure if you feel like eating something that is high in GI, that's your white bread, that's a little sugary food, make sure you're having your fiber, your healthy fats and your protein along with it. So that's how you can reduce the glycemic index of food.
So this would be a great tip, especially for diabetic patients, because they do not need a sugar spike in them.
Exactly.
So if they have a high GI food along with avocado, nuts or any fat or fiber rich food, then that will actually help them control their diabetes too.
Yes, absolutely, because high GI foods in diabetic patients increases the blood sugar levels, which we do not want. So point number one, they shouldn't be consuming high GI foods, but if they want to, they should always combine it with foods high in fiber, proteins and healthy fats.
So as we have discussed today, food chemistry isn't just about taste or making things tastier. It's also about how we can use that knowledge to make healthier, more efficient meals, which will help in maximum nutrient absorption in our body and help us to progress. The science behind food pairings, cooking methods and digestion really ties into how we absorb nutrients and maintain energy throughout the day.
So it's not just about eating for taste, but it's also eating for health. The more we know about food chemistry, we understand and we make wiser and healthier choices where food pairing is considered, where the cooking method is considered. So always remember, eat for maximum nutrient absorption, not only for the taste. So make wise choices, understand the chemistry behind food.
That will be it for today. Thank you everyone for tuning into the Food Chemistry Show, and thank you Dr. Preeti for giving your valuable time and your valuable insights. We hope this episode will make you see the science behind the food, and until next time, remember, food is not just a fuel, it's a powerful tool for health.
Thank you guys and take care everyone. Always remember, keep experimenting with food, make new innovations, of course keeping food chemistry in mind. Learn about nutrition and about nutrient absorption. Always remember, every bite you take it has a science and chemistry behind it. Your body is listening to every bite you take. So make smart choices. Thank you until next time.